And happy Monday, February 27, 2023, and welcome to an end of the month edition of what I like to call the Isolation Cabin. I'm your host, the vegan you believe in, Kirk Cadet, in the flesh as always. And here on the Isolation Cabin, we like to talk about all the different forms isolation takes on, the issues and consequences that could lead from it, and what you can do to fix those issues and have a better quality of life going forward. But today's episode is going to be a little bit different, as I'm not going to necessarily talk about a negative form of isolation, but I'm going to talk about more of a positive form of isolation that deals with standing up for your beliefs regardless of what other people say about it and what other people think about you for those beliefs. And the reason why I'm discussing this today is because this coming Wednesday is going to mark 10 years since I became a vegan. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. One that's given me a better appreciation for animals, a better appreciation for food, and overall it just made me like myself a lot more than I ever did beforehand. But despite those good things that came from veganism, over the years, especially in the beginning, I dealt with a lot of criticism and a lot of people telling me that it was the wrong way to go, that I was foolish and stupid for doing it, that I wouldn't get enough protein. And it's even gotten to the point on social media in certain cases where people would unfriend me because of my vegan beliefs and the vegan principles I stood for. And I'll say, as somebody who struggled with wanting to be popular when I was younger, it's a good feeling to grow out of that mentality and know that even if certain people don't accept you and even if certain people reject you, that in many cases, it has nothing to do with you. And also, if those people are rejecting you for those set beliefs and you never really did anything bad to them, then that really speaks more on their issues and the type of people that they are more than it speaks about you. Because in the world we live in, if you stand for a cause, if you stand for a belief, or if you stand by certain principles that might not be popular, that might not be accepted by the mainstream media or by the majority of people, you're going to be looked at as an outcast. Whether fair or unfair, you're going to be looked at as an outsider, somebody who's looking to rock the boat, and somebody in some ways they even go as far as to label as a troublemaker. And that's a form of isolation that unfortunately we don't have a lot of control over. Because when other people isolate us and other people push us away and other people put us in a box, it's not something you can escape easily, and also it's not something that is easy to deal with when you go through it. Yeah, because it's weird when people will look at you differently or practically disown you just over things you feel strongly about and things you won't back down from. It can get very lonely. It could get very lonely. It could get very isolated, as I mentioned before. And sometimes it'll make you even go as far as to question whether or not what you're doing is the right thing. But I'm here to tell you, if it's something that's not hurting anybody else, and if it's not something that you're actually going out of your way to shove down people's throats and be an asshole about it, then chances are it's not so bad. And chances are people are going to ridicule you, make fun of you, and look down on you for those set beliefs and think that you're weird for those set beliefs. Then straight up, you don't need those people. You don't need that negative, toxic bullshit in your life bringing you down, making you doubt yourself, making you feel less of yourself. Yo, if people like that are hating on you that hard and shitting on you that hard over something you feel strongly about and believe strongly in, whether it would be veganism, whether it would be the political stuff going on right now, whether it would be animal rights or gay rights, etc. If people would disown you over you standing up for those things, then their ass can go and their ass can stay gone. Because I hate to say it, it's situations like this where you speak up on certain things and stand for certain things, where you really find out who your true friends are and the people who are really down for you. And hey, not everybody has to look at it the same as you and agree with you 100%. I have family, I have friends, and a lot of people that I know who aren't vegan. It would be nice if they were, but I know realistically I can't force it on them and I can't make them be vegan against their will. But a majority of those people respect my stance on it, don't give me any shit for it, and even in some ways try to accommodate me, whether we go to a restaurant or I go to their house or something along those lines. And people like that, I'm down with. And people like that I know are still worth keeping in my life. But then there are those who say things like, oh, plants have feelings too. Oh, but what about all the other problems in the world? Why are you just focused on this one? Oh, do you really think you're going to make a difference? You're just one person. Or, oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're buying into conspiracy theories. You're a freaking weirdo. Yeah, because I know when I became vegan back in 2013, it was nowhere near as popular as it is now. It was making progress. It was definitely becoming more known, but definitely compared to now, it was by far looked at as something more taboo. And I just got to the point after struggling with whether or not I wanted to do it for so long that I didn't care about other people's feelings about it or what other people would say about it. I just knew deep down in my heart that I wanted to do it. I wanted to be vegan. I wanted to make that change in my life, and I never looked back. And granted, that criticism came, that isolation came, those haters came. But you know what? I believed in it so much that it didn't really matter to me. And when you believe in something that strongly and you stand by it that firmly, those haters and those naysayers won't matter to you either, regardless of what issue you're standing for. Because there are lonely periods we do go through from time to time, and it does happen, and sometimes it is out of our control. But the one thing I say to that is to simply endure. It's going through those experiences and it's going through that kind of ordeal and still standing firm on your choices and principles that makes you stronger. That shows you that what you're standing for is the right thing. And that shows you that even though you have to stand on your own too sometimes, that it can still be done. And hey, in some cases, being on your own and being isolated and being an island to yourself isn't necessarily a bad thing. While I do always maintain that the isolation where you push people away or the isolation where you just cut yourself off from the world is toxic and does bring you down a dark hole, there's also that isolation of when you know there's negative people around you and people that you know aren't aligned with your values and aligned with the things you believe in. It's okay to distance yourself from that shit. In many ways, those people will probably isolate you and push you away, but there's also in many cases where it's okay if you want to cut them off too. Because as much as I say that, being alone can be depressing and doing it for a long period of time has a lot of negative consequences, I do maintain the mentality that it is better to be alone than to be in bad company. And all those haters, all those doubters, all those people that make you think less of yourself because of the things you're standing for are exactly that bad company that you don't need. Everybody who's ever stood for a cause or stood for something in their life, regardless of how big or how little, has definitely felt that isolation and definitely felt that loneliness that comes with it. And yes, it's challenging. And it's especially challenging when those people who are giving you shit and talking down to you for those said things are your own family and friends you've known for years. Yeah, it's a serious punch to the gut. And I've even known people on this vegan journey who have told me personally that they've had family disown them over their decision to be vegan. To the point where they're not allowed at the house, they're not invited to any family functions, and they're pretty much dead to their family because of that choice. And how sad can that be, to cut off an own family member just because you don't agree with their dietary choices and because they differ from yours? How much of an immature little bitch are you to pull that crap? Yeah, because you're always going to upset people when you speak out against things that are considered normal. Regardless of whether or not you're right, regardless of how many valid points you make, it's always going to upset somebody. You just can't please everyone. It's a sad part of the world we live in, but unfortunately, you just cannot please everybody. There's always going to be at least one person if not more, who's going to find something wrong with what you say, what you do, the way you live your life, etc. But the thing is, you don't have to be liked by everybody. You don't have to be accepted by everybody. In fact, if you are accepted by everybody and no one ever finds anything wrong with anything you say, then you're probably doing something wrong. Because you can't be a kiss ass, a bootlicker, and somebody who just goes along with everything else just because everybody else does it. That's not living. That's not being original. And while you may think you're being a part of the crowd by doing that and fitting in more, there's no more lonelier existence than that one. I remember 10 years ago when I made this decision, it was definitely one that I thought about for a while, one that definitely weighed heavy on me. I had some concerns mainly about my weight and of my weight dropping drastically because of becoming vegan, but once I learned that I could still maintain a good physique off of it and still live a good quality life off of it, then I realized it was just a no-brainer. And also learning of the abuse that's done to animals and the process of making meat and dairy products, the more I learned about that, the more it did not sit right with me. And the less I enjoyed meat and dairy when I would eat them. Because after a while, after learning about that stuff and just eating a hamburger or eating a piece of chicken, it just didn't have that same feeling anymore. And I just started liking it less and less, and over time, I just had an epiphany where I just said, I can't do this anymore, and I'm not doing this anymore. And ever since then, 10 years later, I'm still going strong. And no matter what criticism I've received for it, no matter how many people have tried to argue with me about it and tell me I'm stupid for it, or no matter how many people who have unfriended me online for what I've said or posted about it, I wouldn't change a damn thing about being vegan. No freaking way. Because even if I did lose friends in the process, honestly, if I lost them over that, they were not my real friends. And all I can say to those people is good riddance. And if you're going through a similar ordeal like me, where you have things you believe in and things that you stand on that aren't popular and that people kind of make fun of you for, the best advice I can give you is stick with it. Because when you believe in something that strongly, and you realize it's the right way to go and the right thing to do, over time, it'll all work itself out. And everything that needs to come to light eventually will. Because obviously we all know through the civil rights movement, also the women's movement, gay rights movement, etc., many of the people who stood up for those things and spoke out against all those injustices that were associated with them were looked at as the bad guys, were looked at as the outcast, and were ridiculed, and were criticized, and were ostracized from society in many ways. But if they hadn't stuck with those principles, and if they hadn't stuck with their mission and stuck by what they believed in, chances are it wouldn't have paid off the way it ended up paying off for all of these said situations. And that's the thing I've learned, is that sometimes even when it's hard, sometimes even when it feels lonely, sticking with it even when it's hard is what makes all the difference. Yeah, the world we live in, it's not very accepting to people who think out of the box and who do these kind of things and who are original and who don't like to do what everyone else does. But it is those originators, it is those outcasts, it is those dreamers. They're the ones that actually do change the world. Because people talk about wanting to change the world and how the world needs to change and how they wish it would, but they fail to understand that the real change starts with you. The real change starts with the things you do in your daily lives, the things you see going on around you in your daily lives, and whether or not you want them to continue. Because if you decide to put a stop to those things and speak out against those things and show the world that they're wrong, if you stick with it long enough, you'll eventually see some results. And I know I've seen a lot of results in this 10-year vegan journey I've been on. Now that it's come to the point where a lot of mainstream actors and actresses and a lot of athletes and a lot of politicians are vegan and have been vegan for years, And also you see it featured in movies and TV shows and in magazines and all this. A lot of restaurants have more vegan friendly options than they did 10 years ago. It's clear to see that myself and many other people who have stood by this movement and believed in this movement so strongly have been making a difference and have inflicted change. And even for myself personally, just from the things I would post online and the pictures I would take of the food I would eat or the things I would talk about to people that would ask me questions about it, I made a lot of people curious about wanting to become vegan, and many people ended up becoming vegan because of that. It's crazy. Just over something as simple as a post online, I convinced many people to give veganism a try. And that's the thing. The littlest thing you can do, the littlest thing you can do to speak out and get the message out there can really change people's lives in ways you wouldn't even imagine. And that's why I say this form of isolation that may come across when you stand by beliefs and stand by principles, it's okay. It's something all of us deal with at one point or another, and it's not always fun, but it's okay if you're in that place temporarily. Because sometimes we do need that alone time, and sometimes we do need that time to think on our own and not have any of the fuckery around us. But it's what you do with that time, what you are able to create from it, that'll set you up in the long run and create a better quality of life. So I just urge you, if you're going through that isolation right now because of things you're standing for and things you believe in, I just want to tell you that it's going to be all right. Eventually it's going to pay off. Eventually what you stand for will come to light, and you'll see that standing for those things and not backing down from them was probably one of the best decisions you could ever make. And by doing that, you are being the change that you want to see in this world. Well, that's all the time I have for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Isolation Cabin. If you want to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can look me up, my first name and last name, Kirk Cadet. Send me a holler, send me a shout out. Tell me what you like about the show. Tell me what you don't like about the show. But regardless, I'm going to be here for a long time to come talking about all this isolation shit we deal with and what we can do to get a better handle on it. It's been 10 great years being vegan. One of the best decisions I ever made. No way in hell I would ever go back. And I'm looking forward to keeping on with the vegan movement until the day I'm no longer here. So with that being said, this is Kirk Cadet for another edition of the Isolation Cabin. And God bless, guys. Take care. Stand by what you believe in, even if no one's rocking with you. And I promise you, you'll see that you were right in the long run. Have a good one, guys. God bless.